In this video, you will learn everything you need to know to make a simple tank top. It is a great project for beginners, and if you want this sewing pattern, I will put a link in the description so you can download it for a very reasonable price. Every part of the instructions are time-stamped so you can skip ahead if needed. You will need typical sewing tools and supplies such as sewing machine, iron board, scissors, fabric pen, thread, and new sewing needles. Be sure to find out your size using this chart provided in my sewing pattern instructions PDF file. Even though stretch fabrics can be fun and forgiving, it is highly recommended to take accurate measurements. The model here, me, is wearing a size 8. This pattern uses the USA size system. I'll put a link in the description on a helpful video on how to take measurements. Please be sure to write down exactly how much fabric you need. Don't skip this step. This chart in the instructions tell you precisely how much fabric you will need for your size. Buy exactly what you need and save the money for coffee. Now, before getting started, you need to wash and dry your fabric so that it's not like shrinking or doing anything weird after you sew it. Then you iron out the fabric so it has no wrinkles. Then you transfer the pattern onto your fabric with A4 US letter or A0 paper or even Projector. That's a new trend. Or what I do is I print the pattern directly onto the fabric using Spoonflower, and the vectors that I include in my PDF sewing pattern instructions include that. So you can do that too. Now I know some people will be saying like, well, if you print it onto the fabric, it can shrink after you wash it. And that's true, but it wasn't actually a problem for me. So I'm not like recommending it, but if you want to do it that way, then like I don't see what the problem is. I didn't have that much of a problem and my pattern turned out fine. So you can try it that way if you want. Anyway, so make sure that the stretcher side is along the width of the tank top because obviously you don't want it to be stretching up and down. But let's assemble now. So there are only 2 pieces. You should have one front piece and one back piece that look like this, okay? And then you stack the 2 pieces on top of each other. The right sides must be facing together. I personally like to use sewing clips instead of pins to hold my fabric temporarily in place. It's faster and prevents yourself from getting pricked. Sew only the shoulder seams together and the side seams together. Do not assemble the neckline or bottom. Use a 5/8 inch seam allowance. You can use a serger or a sewing machine. I personally like to use a serger like this to assemble faster and for better seams. Sew the side seams from the top to down direction. Make sure especially the shoulder seams and side seams are aligned. Okay, now let's finish the raw edges. Finish the raw edges around the armhole, neckline, and bottom. There are many ways to do this. If you do not have a serger, I'll leave a link in the description for alternate ways with just a sewing machine. I prefer the commercial finished look using a serger. And to do this, I serge all the raw edges, which is along the neckline, armhole, and bottom. Then I fold the newly serged edges inward and sew over it with a twin needle. Make sure to backstitch at each end of your stitch. Congrats! Thank you for watching. If you made this, please #HavaDesigns on Instagram. I would love to see how this worked out for you.